direction, misdirection sets the stage to turn the page. At the raising of the curtain, I am hurting and uncertain of the parts that we have played. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Why must the show go on? Must I sing this song again? Fading out of the close-up, everybody's reeling, no concealing. Your beauty is seed stealing. Violins are singing, sunset's waiting, radiating. Your entrance is breathtaking. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Why must the show go on? Must I sing this song again?
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for episode 39 of the Four Wall Sunday Roundtable. Again, this week, I'm starting the show without Drew. As you may know, if you've been watching, his mom has been fighting cancer, and I'm very sad to say that she passed away a few days ago. Our hearts go out to Drew and his family, and we send them all the love and support. This is not an easy transition, but I will say Drew and I met with our guest last week, and he was very excited about this group and really wishes he could be here. I am excited as well. It's not every week that I know all of them personally. And this week, I not only know them, but I like them all very much. I have tons of respect for them as professionals and people. So I'm very happy to introduce Alex Brandt, Penny Jacobus, John Froelich, and Matt Staniec. Hello and welcome to the Four Wall Sunday Roundtable.
Hello.
So happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to see all of you. And we're going to jump right in. And we're going to start with John. So this is a sort of a warm-up question because I think it's an easy one, I think. For a moment, as hard as this may be, let's ignore the global pandemic and the shutdown that, has sort of devastated an entire entertainment industry. So I'm going to ask this question in the present tense, even though you are maybe not all actively working. Some of you might be. John, where do you work? Where do you work, John?
At present, I work at the Metropolitan Opera as the resident lighting designer. That's currently where I still am.
And Penny.
Excuse me. I worked for the New York City Ballet as on the lighting staff from 2000 to 2018, and I left the company in 2018 to be a stay-home mom. So full disclosure, I'm not currently working for them, but I loved every minute of those 18 years.
We put that on the little poster.
Okay, good.
Warmer. Full disclosure. John, how long have you been at the Met? Sorry, I should have asked that.
It's a long and winding road, but I first walked into the building in the winter of 2001, so probably December of 2001. And I've left and gone, and that's very long chapters you can ask me about, but that's how long I've been there. So
got it.
I'm old.
The building,
old.
The Metropolitan Opera House, the building. Alex, where do you work, and how long have you been there?
I work at the Public Theater as the lighting supervisor there. And I've been there for almost as long as Penny and John have been in their roles. I've been there for 2 years.
And Matt, where do you work and how long have you been there?
I've been the lighting for Penn and Teller in various parts of the country, currently in Las Vegas since August of 2000.
Wow, we have some lifers here, and Alex, who maybe who knows in 20 years. Alex, we're going to go to you next, and a little later we're going to dive a little deeper into your COVID lives. For now, can you tell us how your organization, the Public, in your case, handled COVID employment? Are you allowed to talk about this? I
am, yeah. So we all went home like everyone else last March, and we stayed on for about 6 months through board approvals of extensions of our pay to a PPP loan that the theater was able to get. And then July 17th or so, we a large number of us went on furlough. The entire lighting department went on furlough. And for the most part, we've been out until very recently. The staff is starting to come back now. But even in that time that we were on furlough, which I think most of us realized was, a business decision the company had to make, they have been paying for our healthcare in full the entire time. So they've taken care of us. Obviously, we'd all rather be working. But,
sure.
But it has been pretty great.
Yeah. And John, how about you and the Metropolitan Opera?
Thinking all that time back, but I think we were sent home about, the second week in March, and then I worked until the end of the month. My staff only got, I believe, a week. I can't be sure. And just for clarification, there's 3 people that work with me in the lighting design office. And so I was kept on to the end of March, and then I was out of work for about 17 weeks, and they came back around August 1st, and I've been on since that time, but none of my staff currently is employed. So.
Got it. And Matt, how about you and Penn and Teller?
Penn and Teller have been really great for almost all of the entire time. They've kept me insured, and with some payments coming through pretty much the entire break or the entire layover here. They kept most of the road crew or the local crew insured for a good half of the time, and then they had to lay everybody off. But for the tight family of Penn and Teller employees, we're still getting paid.
And you are one of a number of the tight family that have been with Penn and Teller for a very long time, right?
It's an organization that retains its people for a very, very long time. In fact, I'm probably one of the younger or the shortest term people, and I've been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Amazing. Penny, you were already a stay-at-home mom at the beginning of this. So how did your organization pay you? No,
No, I'm working for free.
So let's go to you for the next question. Let's go back to the very beginning. All those years ago, what sparked your interest in lighting? How did you get into lighting design in the first place?
I have to say, not specifically lighting design, but my father is an Episcopal priest. Well, he's now a retired bishop. And there's something about spending a lot of time in church that gives you, it's like a presentation. Everything is important. The whole picture is important. Putting baby Jesus in the creche at Christmas, that's important. Having the flowers, that's important. I used to get $5 to pull a rope at the end of a wedding to ring the bells. So I think that is really where the whole theater thing sort of developed inside of me. And then you go to high school and you can actually be a part of it. And that really helped it all to flourish.
Was there lighting in the church? I mean, some of the biggest customers of lighting in this country are churches.
Oh yeah,
It wasn't a church like that. It was more of a candle sort of thing. I mean, I was an acolyte, so I had a lot of candles to light, candles to put out. I did the, fling the incense around. I'm not going to call it theatrics, but there was a lot of great
pageantry,
things, pageantry and tradition, and that sort of stuff.
Alex, how about you? How did it start for you?
So I was super into photography in high school, and then I literally wandered onto stage. I followed a friend of mine onto stage, and the director of a show said, "Did you book a crew?" And she pointed at us, and then here I am. But I have to say, I raised my hand to run a follow spot for a production of Les Mis. And Cindy Shippers in Syracuse, New York, started teaching me about, she was doing the lighting for the shows, and she started teaching me about ellipsoidals and parkans and all these things, and I just kept asking questions, and I just have kept asking. Eventually the question started to be, will you pay me for this? And here I am.
I still ask that question. And John, how about you? How did you get into lighting?
Well, I think just like Alex and Penny, like high school, I was a camp counselor between my junior and senior years, and the theater teacher in high school says, "Oh, you have to try out for a play." She already had a plan for me, and I was like, "I'm not doing any of that. I've never done any of it. I don't have any interest." Well, anyway, she convinced me. I auditioned, got a part. I'm never going to tell you what part it is, but then after that, the whole time we were rehearsing and I was trying to remember my lines and being terrified about being in front of people, all this stuff, I kept like looking up at this little black box theater grid and being really interested in that stuff. So in the next shows, I helped out that way. And then from there, it just kind of, it was long and sordid road, but that's where it started.
A long and sordid? Did you say sordid?
Yes. There was the Coast Guard Academy involved at one point. And if we want to go there, we can, but
Maybe we'll come, if we have time at the end, we're going to come back to this. Matt, how about you?
I started later. Wasn't until college that I kind of got into writing, and writing took me to New York, and trying to act and write in New York led me to the Ensemble Studio Theater, where I did a lot of just trying to get in front of people. And eventually I realized I didn't have the discipline to be a good writer, but I loved being in the theater, and fell into an opportunity working with their house LD, Greg McPherson, who teaches up at Sarah Lawrence University. And he kept me on for he just taught me a whole lot of stuff, and I just kept wanting to learn more.
Amazing. I guess I still feel like I want to, get paid and learn more. So I agree with all of you. I'm not sure if I have sorted. Well, maybe. Let's go back to you. Maybe we'll hear a little bit about this. Now, what was your path to your current position? And how did you get the job, and what were you doing leading up to it? Coast Guard aside. And then is this where you thought you'd be when you started out? Did you think you'd be the resident lighting designer at the Metropolitan Opera?
Oh, no, definitely not. And I think before I started my career at the Met, I was actually a graduate student at the University of Connecticut, because I went to undergraduate for lighting and scenery design in Montana. So after you graduate from there, you're like, what have I done? And so I had to pick a direction, went to graduate school. And then from there, University of Connecticut had an internship program, and that's how I got my foot in the door at the Met. So that's kind of the short answer of it all.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So wait, so what was your first job at the Met? Before you became the resident designer, what did you do?
So at the beginning, I was an intern in the technical department, and so technical and production department. And then I was a technical assistant for the technical director, Joe Clark. They basically asked somebody to leave, and he turned to my intern desk and threw the keys on the little tiny temporary desk, and he goes, "Why are you still sitting there?" And then I moved over, and then that's basically how I started getting a paycheck at the Met. And then after that, I left and I worked for ABT for a little bit. Then I came back and I worked for Local One, was an amazing opportunity to come back and work for Local 1 as a layout man inside the Met. And then I left and went to London. I was an assistant technical director for an opera company there, and then had kids, came back, taught for a little speck of time at SCAD, and then came back to the lighting office. So that's how.
That's a great story. Alex, how about you? You have probably a shorter version of your story.
I can keep going for a while though. Some people say that I started talking and then I haven't stopped yet. I went to college in the greatest city, Boston. And
I'm done. Stop. Nope.
But yes, I graduated from Emerson College. Wonderful lighting professor Scott Pinkney there handed me off to the Huntington Theater Company, where Kat Herzig and Mike Wellman hired me as their intern for the season. I apparently didn't. They wrote me a letter of recommendation either because they wanted to be gone or because I did a good job. And I started freelancing for any company that I could. Eventually did like a bit of a permalancing gig at Arts Emerson, and then was hired as the assistant master electrician, assistant lighting supervisor. It was a very weird title time. They kept changing our titles. At the American Repertory Theater in Cambridge, and was also working as the lighting director for Boston Lyric Opera before applying for the job at the Public in the fall of 2019, and was shocked to get a phone call and come to the other greatest city, New York. So,
who called you? Was it Ruth who called you?
No, I got a call from Maxwell Friedman, Ruth's associate, and then interviewed with Jonathan Pello, and then had a very scary interview with Ruth Sternberg, who slapped our calendar down on the table in front of me and said, "How does this make you feel?" And I was like, "I guess it's a lot, yeah." But yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I ever thought. I thought I'd be it's in the middle of nowhere at a regional theater with, one show a year trying to earn my keep in the industry. And I've been super lucky to have gotten this job at the Public and getting to work with this amazing group of people. So
cool.
So you thought you were going to be in Boston, huh? Your whole time?
Yeah. Just,
Sorry to have to go to New York. Alex, did we ever meet at the Huntington? Were you there when I breezed through, or?
That was maybe. I knew your name from the Huntington.
Some list.
Either you had done a show or did a show while I probably focused a light for you at some point.
Thank you.
When Kat hired me. So yeah, you're welcome.
Kat, if you're watching, hello. Penny, what was your path to your job when you had it? And did you think you'd be doing it?
No, I did not think I would be doing it. My path, of course, I started going to college in the greatest city in the United States, Madison, Wisconsin. Oh. And then I was the 1997 recipient of the Gilbert Hemsley internship. And that was my big break. If, you talk about getting your big break, that was my big break. I moved to New York City thinking I was going to do this internship and then go right back to Wisconsin, because what I really wanted to do is light regional opera in Wisconsin. That would be the biggest of the big that I was doing. But the internship turned into a job with the New York City Opera for 3 years, from 97 to 2000. And then in 2000, I same building, switched from the opera company over to the ballet company. And then I just was there. I had some time off, during the ballet season. You do a lot of stuff. I fit in a couple of Broadway shows, being the assistant, and some other, sort of touring things. But that's kind of how I ended up at the ballet.
You moved upstairs. You moved from the basement to the.
I did. I moved from the basement to the 4th floor. I did. And I went from using mostly letter-sized paper to using a lot of legal-sized paper. That was a big step.
That's Mark Stanley, though.
That's Mark
He's
Stanley.
a legal size. He's a legal size guy.
We're going to start about the paperwork size war now, right? You
I know. Someone from Met, someone from City Opera. Who did you work with at City Opera? Who was the resident designer when you were there?
Jeff Harris was the.
Jeff Harris was there.
Yeah, it was his first year, I think, maybe second year. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in the day, it was a fun place to be.
Yeah. And you were, Jeff Davis was your Jeff when you were there?
Yeah. So many Jeffs.
I know.
Matt, what was your path to working for Penn and Teller? And did you expect to be doing this?
I can answer that question right away. No. Las Vegas is never, I don't think Las Vegas is ever in the cards for anyone until you're there, and then it's 20 years later and you've been there for 20 years. I thought I was going to stay in New York. I always felt like the theater lighting was how I wanted to focus. And then I was freelance mostly programming for different people, and the Penn and Teller opportunity just came up. I was in between jobs, and they needed somebody for a Christmas show in Washington, D.C. And I was available and went, loaded it in, stayed for the week, and they said, well, our LD, Stuart Wagner, had left. And would I like to stay on? And I have ever since.
That's it.
That was it. And it's just one of those things that just kind of happened to you, and you didn't know it. And it was going to be, a life changer, essentially.
Yeah. Stuart Wagner, incidentally, was a stagehand, a Broadway househead, and recently retired, and I think moved to a villa in Italy. So.
I never actually met Stuart, but I've heard from my coworkers tell me all about the rebuilding his castle in Italy.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I've seen it.
Have you?
Yes, I was there. It's amazing.
You were there?
I was. Well, they were there doing their renovation. My family was there on vacation, and we were like, how could we not go see this church? It's amazing. It's huge.
Yeah, I think we need to make this address public for everybody.
I don't believe they're there right now because of COVID. I do believe
even perfect. Better. It's empty. It's great. Go on.
I should mention that Penny's husband is currently a househead, right?
Yes.
Broadway,
he's the househead at the Walter Kerr. And we were discussing how he knows you as well for falsettos.
That's right.
It's such a small world.
It is teeny tiny. I had a great time in that theater. I have a great time in every theater.
I did too. That's why we ended up getting married.
Hey, what show was it?
It was 16 Wounded, which they referred to as 16 Previews because it did not run very long.
But you got something out of it, so
I sure did.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Penny, we're going to stay with you.
Okay.
You're all resident lighting designers. Penny, you were, and you may be again someday. Lighting directors, supervisors. Let's spend a few minutes talking about what that actually means. Penny, when you were at City Ballet, what did your job entail, and what were your responsibilities?
It's, the lighting supervisor, lighting director job is huge. There's really a lot involved. But I think a couple of the main things are you are in charge of the records, at least at City Ballet. You're in charge of the information and the records for all the ballets that are being done. New ones, old ones, keeping the paperwork updated. The lights don't stay in place in the theater. You have to put them up every time. So we would load in on a Monday and open on a Tuesday night generally. You have to focus everything in that amount of time. And then whatever ballets are being performed, you have to focus any of the specials and get the moving lights put into place and rent any of the items that you need for it. But then you have to do a rehearsal with the dancers. And typically in a week at New York City Ballet, there might be eight ballets opening. So you have to be able to come in the morning, do all your work, have lunch. After lunch, all afternoon, you're rehearsing with the dancers, and then you have a show that evening. So in addition to making that system work day after day after day, you also have to help new designers come in and design new ballets. And in general, just be like the chief problem solver for the lighting department, because it might be right before a show that something breaks and you have to figure out what you're going to do. Or maybe, I'm going to say a scroller breaks, because I know that not too many people use scrollers anymore, but that really can cause trouble right before a show starts, making a whole lot of noise. You also have a staff underneath you, like John was talking about. So you have a staff that you have to work with to make everything happen. And I'm trying to think of all the other things that were involved. I'm sure everybody else has things to add. So I'll stop right there.
You can come back. If you
top.
think of something else, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Alex, I think your job is probably very different, right, than Penny's, since you're not doing multiple theaters and you do many shows and they're all new, and you don't bring back rep often, ever? Probably not.
Almost ever.
Right.
So I am very lucky. I have a team of 5 folks, an admin, a shop 4-person, and 3 assistants. So I don't get into the weeds of the fixtures nearly as much as I used to, especially back in Boston at ART. My job was to get the lights in the air, run the crew, very, very hands-on in it. At the public, it's a bit different. I'm negotiating lighting packages. I'm talking to designers, trying to pull strings to get them the gear that they need. I like to say that I work for the designer when necessary. But we have five spaces downtown. There's a whole nother wonderful team that takes care of Joe's Pub. And then we've got the Delacorte in Central Park for Shakespeare in the Park. So it's a lot. But we're a company that believes in work-life balance and staffs accordingly. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes it feels like we're all running around with our heads cut off. But it's a really wonderful team that I get to work with. And a lot of my job is, kind of like Penny was saying, a lot of my job as the lights is, negotiating those packages, the technical details, coming up with what systems we're going to use. But a lot of my job, especially with, a couple hundred overhire and that kind of thing, is people.
Sure.
Is being there to make sure that everyone on our team has someone that they can go to talk about problems with work, with other people. And so that's a part of the job that I have really come to love, is getting to not so much manage, but work with the people who make these shows happen, because these shows don't happen without the people. I think that's something we've all learned in the last
That's
year.
something that a lot of people haven't learned enough. So it's nice to hear you say that. And I hope, I hope people listen. Are you now? I just have a question. Are you, back in the day when I first came to the city, the person in your position was also the master electrician for the shows. You are not that, right? You hire another a master electrician to actually load in the shows. Yeah,
at this point we have so many shows happening at once that we're hiring. So my assistants, I have 3. An associate and 2 assistants, and they will each be assigned to a show, and then they have a master electrician and an assistant master electrician that work with them on that specific show. So once the package is negotiated and we're good to go, we've got the gear, the designer's happy, hopefully, or at least not yelling at me that I didn't get them what they need. Then I hand it off, and my team
fight another fight.
But there are days where we've got 60, 70 overhire in just for our department, and the scenery department sometimes makes us look like we're small. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it to get the freight train that is the public theater to get back up to speed.
I'm sure it will, especially them. Matt, also very different from Alex and Penny. Tell us about what you do.
Well, we're like a many-headed. We sit in Vegas, and so managing that sit-down show, we have an amazing lighting designer that I use his notes and basically when he comes to town. But the guys work on new material constantly. So I'm there to help them develop the new material as far as, if there's special lighting needs for them. We've added video to the house now, so I'm kind of working as a video director as well. And then we tour on top of that, so I still have the touring lighting design aspect that I need to stay on top of when we go back to touring.
And you do all the light plots for the road. You take Penn and Teller on the road.
I advance and do all the lighting on the road.
I'm not going to let that slip, by the way. Thank you very much. To call the lighting designer of Penn and Teller amazing.
Oh, well, he is.
I heard he was a really good guy.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll get back to that inside joke later. No, it's thank you, Matt. It's me. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I didn't know it was you.
Blushing, or I'm too tungsten lit. I can't tell what's happening here. More on what you do in a moment, because I have some follow-up questions. But John, I think what you do at the Met is similar to what Penny did at City Ballet, not City Opera. We don't talk about that anymore. John, tell us what your job is at the Met.
Well, I'll probably glance over all the stuff that Penny already described because it's almost part and parcel the same. To explain the differences is that our opera is 138 to 140 live opera repertory company. We spend between, I think, $200 and $250 million a year. And our season runs from the third week in September until the first week in May. And basically, if I had to sum it up in a sentence, the show must go on. It is craziness from August 1st when we start our month-long tech sessions for new productions. And then the opening night comes, and we have special events sometimes on weekends. And the goal is to keep all that running. On top of all of that, there is an live in HD series where I'm the HD lighting designer. So I have to take the designs that other lighting designers have made for the live opera audience, and very quickly with just a scratch tape and then a live broadcast, change everything so it looks, feels, and flows the same for a camera, which we all know is a very different animal than the human eye.
Sorry, I want to interrupt for one second and ask a question. You do the adaptation. You're the one that does the adaptation for camera, or do you bring in someone else?
No, I do the adaptation.
Wow.
Cool.
And yeah, it's crazy. So basically we do a final dress of the live opera before opening night. They do a 3-camera test. We're not allowed to change any of the lighting, naturally, because it's a final dress and there's an audience in the house. And then basically we then do one scratch tape in front of a live audience, and I have to make any and all changes in blind before that I can see off the camera test. And then I have to work live over the audience on that night and make additional changes based on what the producer and the HD director want. And we use 10 cameras, so it's a lot of different angles to cover. And then those angles oftentimes change just enough to make you cry before the broadcast. So
nobody thinks about how it affects the lighting designer.
No.
Never,
we're
never
the center of the world. Come on, right? Come on, we can all agree on that, right? So
we can all agree on that.
Yeah. So that's the HD stuff, but other than that, it's a madhouse live every day.
So similar, you have 3 operas, similar to Penny and the Ballet. You have 3 operas on stage at any given day. That's right. You come in the morning. There's the opera from last night. You do something in the afternoon where you're rehearsing, and then that evening you're doing a different one. Is that basically every day of your life there?
So basically, yeah. But at 9 a.m. we show up, and the overnight crew has changed over. Overnight electrics and night scenic gang grips, men and women come in, and they get it partially set on stage from 9 until 10:30. We finish setting for the top of the opera or the top of the rehearsal, depending on what we're doing. That includes all the focuses we need to do from 10:30 until 2:33, sometimes 4 o'clock, depending on the length of the opera, we're in rehearsal. And then we take all of it down, get it out of the way, and we get ready for the evening performance. So, and then it starts over again after the performance. So never stops, 24 hours a day. So.
Penny, did you want to add anything now that you've heard all of this? You don't have to. This
yes.
is not, I don't mean, yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to Four Wall because rentals were also a big part of the job. When you have a guest lighting designer come in and you give them the inventory for the theater, sometimes they say, but I would really like blah, blah, blah. And Four Wall has always been so great in helping me find those solutions. So thank you, Four Wall. Thank you, El Rodella. Appreciate it.
Al is here doing all the camera switching since Drew is not here with us this week. So I'm sure Four Wall hears that. And for them, as not an employee, I will say thank you very much on behalf of Four Wall Entertainment. I'm gonna stick a little bit in this question, and I'm just gonna throw this out there and let you guys all jump on here. Well, I'm Alex. I'm not sure you can answer this question, but the question is, what's changed? How much of it has changed since when you started? Alex, how much has changed since when you started 2 years ago? Actually, maybe you can. Has anything changed?
I mean, we've made a lot of changes at the public, and we continue to make a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And those are very exciting. But in my career, I think that I've seen a lot change just in terms of the culture. I've seen people care a lot more about their own lives and what's going on, and their work-life balance. And I think that's been kind of a theme of going from working 80 or 90-hour weeks freelancing for 4 different companies in a day, and at some point all of us going, why are we?
Well, we're going to get to that a little bit later, but COVID, we went from working 80 hours a week to working kind of 0 hours a week at a snap in some cases. Matt, how much has changed since you started? I mean, yeah.
Well, I would travel around with 3.5-inch book, floppy books, and everywhere we went was, Wecos. It was 6x9s and Source 4s, and now, I don't have any of that. I'm just going in. It's all everything's moving lights, everything, and Penn and Teller are guys who, once you show them a toy, they want to play with that toy all the time. We can't go backwards. We're only going forward. So,
right.
As the technology changed, their desires changed, and as video has become a bigger thing, their focus has gone from less big tricks to we can make small things happen, and everybody in a 3,000 seat house can still see it. So we can do. Yeah. They've brought it all down. It's much more intimate now, as opposed to before, 20 years ago, where the illusions were bigger.
And you work with Penn and Teller. There's no magical subsidiary that gives information from them to you. You're right there on stage. They are the director. They are the if they have an idea, we basically are sitting in a room during the days. They've got this crazy idea they want to do whatever, and they say, well, how do we make this happen? And they're basically looking at me, and they're looking at the props builder, and how do we make it happen? And we sit there and we bounce stuff back and forth, and we were blessed. We had Johnny Thompson, some great magical minds who were with us a lot, who I could turn to Johnny and say, how do I make this, thread disappear? And he would have, well, in 1940, I did this thing at the Chicago Theater and we just used red light, and, and whatever it was, I would be able to turn to them, and they would have great ideas. Johnny would sit in the front row right on the side, squint. I still see it
because he couldn't see.
Don't sit there.
Absolutely. I can't, you can't hear half the time. It was, it was funny. It was a lot of fun.
To jump on that, I have to say at the ballet, there was a little bit of that as well, because the ballet masters who set all the dances have been getting older as well. They danced it once. So, they're not squinting at the stage quite, but their view of what they're looking at has changed over the years. And I found that things that looked too dark to everyone were off, or too yellow. It was often, if I turned up the blue a little more, it would fix it. I think we look at blue screens so much during the day. I think so much of our normal life has gotten bluer that when you look at the stage and it's exactly what it was, a year ago, it doesn't look the same because our lives have adjusted our eyes.
So that's a good segue. And John, we'll get back to you to let you answer the other question. But so Penny, at the ballet, you're adapting pieces that could be 50, 60 years old, and the equipment has changed quite a bit since they were first done. Is there pressure? I'm not sure pressure is the right word. Do you feel like you have to make it look exactly the way it did 50 years ago, or do you adapt as the eyes change?
No, you adapt. Nobody wants to see what it was 50 years ago. Everyone wants the feeling of what it was 50 years ago, but 50 years, if it was a big bright stage, you're going to do that again, but you're not going to do it with 20 beam projectors that you had 50 years ago. You're going to use 350 source 4s, or you're going to use some moving light backlight, because it's what the audience needs to see.
Is now conditioned. We're conditioned to see something different.
Yeah.
John, does that apply at the Met when you bring back an old opera?
Oh, definitely. And it's very funny, like adding into what has changed during even just my tenure in the lighting design office. We were using beam projectors and still do at times. I mean, we have a whole complement of BP4 golds, BP6s.
Do people ask if they can throw it out? Do people come up to you and say, can we throw that stuff out? And you're like, whoa.
Yeah. No. Well, all of a sudden it flashes in my brain that 20 operas that they don't know about, they're coming up, and that we have that particular one had rehearsals cut out of it. So then you're like, well, no, yes, we should improve that. Not this year. It's not going to happen. So it's always that thing where, you're constantly changing it. But like Penny said, in our positions, and please correct me if anybody feels differently, is you cannot be locked into the technology of a previous time. Your goal is to understand and the feeling and the intent of it all. The hardest part for companies like New York City Ballet, American Ballet Theater, Metropolitan Opera, all of the big, houses all around the globe, is I've revived things from the late 50s.
Sure.
And they're like, well, how are you going to do that? There's no pictures. There's no disc. There's no, so you basically talk with people who might have seen it in a previous revival year, and you actually have the strangest conversations. Well, what did it feel like? And then you have to know who you're talking to, because you worked with them before, hopefully. And, sometimes I've gone down to the tech tables and the curtain goes up and I'm like, oh, this could be a good day, or this could be a bad day. So,
it's like lighting. You're a lighting historian as just as much.
Yeah, that's a good.
The history matters. At City Ballet, there are several ballets that have handwritten notes in them that say things like, in 19 blah blah blah, Jerry Robbins said, "Don't use the blue scrim, please use the black scrim," because everyone has a different memory of it. You have to keep track of all the changes because it does matter.
Yeah. Or you've worked actually with the person, Penny. This has probably happened to you, where I've worked with the director on a revival, and then the saddest things happen, considering, this, but people pass away. And then the strangest thing is sometimes the creative intent goes into a trust, and sometimes they go, oh, we completely trust you. But then sometimes somebody's family member shows up and they're like, this isn't what it felt like when I watched it. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Blue backlight should be at 50%, not 75%.
Yeah.
Or
Matt, does that, since you are lighting pieces at Penn and Teller that are sometimes 25, 30, more than 30 years old, does the lighting have, was there, is the lighting the same? The lighting has to be so specific for other reasons in what you do, but
and that's kind of the, with the magic aspect of things, you have to meet the practical stuff first. And so the art sometimes has to take a back seat.
Sometimes.
But not maybe not a back seat, but it gets second priority. I guess it's the same thing, isn't it? We like to say that we never do the same show once. And the guys, I don't know if they could as long as I can make the illusion happen, and you might be able to recall some of this too, is that they're open to your take on your interpretation of the material. They encourage you to express your feelings via the lighting.
Especially if it looks good, you can express whatever you want. Absolutely. I mean, as you said, if once they see a new toy, they want to play with the toy. They understand and they love it, and so
and they're willing to change it. If liftoff, I'm going to talk in tricks terms that you may not know, but if liftoff looked this way 25 years ago on Johnny Carson, it's all flat. It's lots of flash and trash, and I can make it flashier and trashier. Go ahead, because that's in keeping with the bit.
Flashier and trashier.
And it's Las Vegas. You work for both.
Does anyone? It does. It's Las Vegas. End of sentence. Does anyone want to add anything to the story of what you do before we move on?
I just think it's interesting that it feels like all of the rest of you have this part of your job that I don't have, which is the designer part. I don't have that that part. But one of my favorite things about my job is working with designers. It's why when I was training for technician or design, I liked designing, but I liked working. I liked working with designers more than I liked working with directors. So I decided to do the job that would allow me to do that the most. And so it's interesting to hear about jobs where my job is combined with that.
Well, and the similarity obviously is that everyone here works with designers also in many different capacities and many different personalities. Some fun.
That is correct.
Sometimes at the same time.
Sometimes, if you're lucky. All right, I think we've finally reached the time for the rapid fire section of the show. Again, Drew's not here. I don't know if Al's going to play the
Jeff's Roundtable Rapid Fire.
Thank you, Al, and Drew. Thanks you. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start with Alex, and I'm going to remind everyone that this is the rapid fire roundtable. Here we go. Alex, something you recently watched or on TV or streamed?
My husband and I just finished 7 seasons of Scandal.
Fantastic. And Penny?
I'm going outside the box with a podcast, Fake Doctors, Real Friends. It's a Scrubs rewatch thing. I love it so much.
Oh, great. John?
Oh, it was WandaVision for me, and I didn't like it. So take that.
And you watch. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm like hate watching a program right now. Matt?
WandaVision as well, and then my wife and I are 6 seasons into Homeland.
Cool. Okay, sticking with Matt. Best advice you were given by anyone?
A TV producer once told me, "Don't make your problems my problems."
That could be advice or a warning, or
it was both.
John, best advice you were given by anyone?
I think early on is take the work, any of the work, even if you don't know, and then figure it out.
Great advice. Penny?
Your outward appearance reflects how other people view you, so dress the part. Like if you show up looking schlubby, people are going to think that that's how you do your work.
Alex?
Scott Pinkney, never undervalue yourself.
All of these are great advice. Excellent. Alex, something you wish you knew at the start of your career?
Everything. Yeah, that'd have been helpful.
That's good. No, leave it there. Great. Penny.
It's always chilly at the tech table.
Yes, bring a sweatshirt, a hoodie, sweaty.
Sweaty.
Another new term. John.
Something I wish I knew at the start of my career. The definition of work-life balance, as we're going to talk about, hopefully, like we've mentioned it all, but didn't know anything about it. Now I wish for it. So.
Matt.
We alluded to it a little earlier, but value the people. I wish I had done that a little more when I was a lot younger.
Sure. Matt, an important skill needed to do what you do.
Oh, gosh. Listen and collaborate well.
Yeah. John.
Eat stress. That's it. Like all the time.
Penny.
I have two. And one is diplomacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 2 is the ability to have 3 people talking to you at the same time and to filter through them and answer everyone without losing your mind.
That is amazing. Yeah. Alex.
Similar to what Penny said, a friend of mine once told me to shut up and think first. And in that same way, needing to kind of take a beat and think before responding.
Think about what comes out of your mouth before it comes out. Alex, least favorite thing you have to do as part of your job?
Saying no. I hate saying no to designers, but it's my job. I hate saying no to staff. It's my job. And I try to make no sound like yes.
That is the skill right there. Penny.
Advocate for something that I don't like my personal sensibilities I don't like. If the designer wants it and that's what this show is calling for, great. I will help you, but maybe I don't really like it.
John.
Oh, this might be contentious, but paperwork. I really don't like the paperwork, and after this many years, so.
Hopefully, no one who thinks you're supposed to do paperwork is watching this. But Matt, least favorite thing you have to do as part of your job?
Asking for money.
Yeah.
Oh yes, win.
Ooh, that's a good one.
These are all great.
Yes.
These are all very yes and.
I love asking for money.
Matt, favorite part of the process for you?
Queuing.
Yeah. John.
Kind of adding on to that, but that in a different term, solving the problem. Like it's row M or tech table, everybody's like, and you help them solve a problem, and it's like gold.
Yeah, totally. Penny.
When everyone works really hard and like the board app, especially the crew, when the crew sees what they've done on stage and they know that it's a great thing. I like that moment.
That is great. Alex.
Practicals and set electrics are my favorite things, and has been the hardest thing to hand off to my assistants, as they will probably tell you.
You're the only person to give that answer.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Keep it all to your number.
You can work anywhere in the world.
Yeah, Alex and John, do a swap. Alex will do paperwork.
We had Teller was at ART when I was there for the Tempest, and those were some of the most fun practicals to be near.
There's a lot of practicals on that one too.
Yeah. Okay, Alex, what would you invent? Something that does not exist, lighting related, not lighting related, theater related. Now, what do you want to invent if you can invent anything?
Easy. Teleportation.
Yes.
Done.
Penny.
I'm going to say the perfect follow spot. It does not currently exist.
If Lycian's watching, better call Penny. John.
A comfortable tech table setup, please. Invent it.
Yes. Matt.
Something that maybe tracks moving light queuing better than what's out there now.
What's out there now? Yes. Okay, Matt, sticking with you. Last question of the rapid fire. What do you miss most about live entertainment being shut down?
I love seeing music. I miss live music. but having an audience react, affecting people that way is, I don't do it, I'm just part of it, but
Sure. No, but big part of
that it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. John.
I miss my big Met extended family, from the chorus and the orchestra all the way to the great local one stagehands and awesome programmers I have and my staff. Aaron, Carrie, Justine, man, I miss them. So
yeah,
just it.
Penny.
I miss taking my kids to see theater because it blows their minds every time we go, and I miss seeing that.
Yeah. Alex.
Celebrating together. I miss, whether it's like opening night or just at the bar after work. I miss that community.
Yeah. Every week I think about taking this question out, and every week I really don't, and I'm always like impressed at how everyone answers, because it's not what I expect. So thank you all so much for the rapid fire. We're out of the rapid fire section, but we're going to go quickly to the end because we're almost approaching the end of our time here together. Alex, work aside, what have you been doing during the shutdown? Anything you've ignored that you're finally getting to? Hobby, cooking something? Anything you've been up to?
Yeah, I was super lucky. I started running and cooking in January of 2020, and that turned out to be a really smart thing to have started doing. But I've also I have family in so this is not from quarantine, but this is Spoleto Festival in like 2014. The pickle, we electrify a pickle for every production back in the day. That one was a Finnish aerialist. So we suspended the pickle from the ceiling, shoved two rusty nails into the, and it's more complicated than that. You have to brine the pickle, and then you have to chant pickle. Yeah, it's people from Spoleto we're kind of a weird bunch, but I have family in Pennsylvania, and I've gotten to see two of my nieces, my brother's two beautiful girls, more in the last year than I ever have. Get to see them grow up, so that's been super cool. Super wonderful to have them so close by and be able to kind of pod with them.
Nice. And John, how about you?
Oh, I've been it's kind of a love-hate thing, but I've been spending time with my family, like for the first time in a long time, like going from being in the Met all the time to 100% being at home. Yeah. And my wife started her second career during the pandemic, which was great, but that left me 100% alone and quite terrified with two 4-year-olds and an 11-year-old. And so that's been great. And then that aside, I've been getting familiar with the chainsaw and working on that work-life balance. So
yeah,
that's about it.
We do have a picture from John, but I think this is not a pandemic picture. Here, we should have brought this up earlier. Like, John, this is your life.
Yeah, I think that was in 2002, my first year at the Met. And we used to have to take pictures front and back of every costume that everyone on the stage. And this one was War and Peace. And I had to do it by myself with actual film. And it said 5:34 there. So I was probably only about halfway done. So it was a long night.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Looks like you have a broken arm.
I did. One of the choristers didn't like their picture and they broke my hand. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that was actually from a technical department snowboarding trip or something. I can't remember, but it was definitely work related.
It was a costume?
What was that?
It wasn't the costume?
No.
It
made it hard.
Matt, what have you been up to since
clean the house, like the garage, like 3 times. I'm a lot better at
come to my house.
I'm a lot better at 4th grade math than I was before.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe not. And gardening.
Yeah, cool. And Penny.
Well, I got very good at homeschooling like Matt was saying about fourth grade. Yeah, here's a homeschool. This was a lot of last year, homeschooling. And then renovation. We did some home renovations because we fixed our old house and bought a new house, sold the old one. And then also cooking. And these bacon, maple, pumpkin donuts, they are gluten-free too. They're paleo. So it was really quite the feat to get those things to turn out so delicious.
It's funny, I haven't gotten one of those yet, Penny. So
I know.
Gosh, I'll get right on that.
Maybe you will. Who knows? Penny, we're gonna stay with you here.
Okay.
So we've been talking about this a lot, the whole work-life balance. Our guests have spoken a lot about how this time off has made them realize that they were maybe working too hard. Some of our guests said that, but some of them can't wait to jump right back in and say like they're ready to go and like they're ready for these 80-hour weeks. I don't know what that means. But once we're fully back, will your work-life, personal life balance be different than it was before the shutdown? I guess, Penny, what do you want to do next? I mean, I guess it's a little different question for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit different because I left in order to intentionally to spend more time with my family. But I know that my kids are going to get older and they will need me less. And then I will not be able to stay away from the theater. So my, I guess, kind of long-term plan, although not too long, is to maybe work for companies that are doing Balanchine ballets or Robbins ballets, things that I'm really familiar with, things that feel very comfortable to me, that are easy to put back on stage. Because I think it's hard to just light something from paperwork. We all know that you can put the numbers in, but it doesn't always come out.
Sure.
Right. So I'd like to do something like that.
Well, maybe Ellen Soren is watching. Yeah. A guest last week, in fact. Matt, how about you?
We're, once we get back in, and they just announced we're going to open for audiences of 250 in a couple of weeks. They're going to jump back in, and they're going to want to do, as much as possible. So I'm excited to get back, but I will miss, all the extra time that I've had at home. Bedtimes have been, I haven't had them for the entire course of my daughter's life, and I've got a whole year of them this year, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah, cool. John.
Well, the Mets scheduled still to have a full 30 days of tech starting in August, and fire right on to the third week of September where we have opening night. But thinking about going back right now, I'm kind of in Matt's shoes, where I'm kind of liking what I'm doing now, and it's going to be really hard to go back with the same like Jeff, you were saying, like 80, 90-hour weeks. It was normal, and in the business it is normal, and it's something that, harking back to, if I knew something way back in the day, it would have been good to know, and now we're all got to pause and we have to think about it. So still thinking. So,
Alex.
Like I said earlier, it's working at the Public has been sort of life-changing in that I have felt very supported in making decisions to give myself and my teams better work-life balance. So we've been in the year before the pandemic, we were really taking things down from 80-hour weeks to 60-hour weeks or 50-hour weeks, even in tech, and saying if we need to hire another person to double up that role so that person gets their 11-hour turnaround that we do, that they get to go home and have a life outside the theater, that we really work to allow them to do that. And so that's what I'm hoping to go back to. Hoping that that all of us can go back to a world where we remember that we are not lucky to have our jobs. Our jobs are lucky to have us. And I think that I happen to work for a company that really does believe that, and that's how they've treated me. you talk to someone who's been there for a long, long time, and that was not always the case even at the public. So my husband would like me to go back to work. But yeah, no, I'm excited to get back to it, and keep trying to change things for the better with all the other awesome folks.
It's nice. I mean, the public has the ability, because there's such a huge staff, to do that, and to limit the hours for people. Some of the other smaller theaters, it's not, they don't have 10 people where 5 can work one shift and 5 can work another. It's all the same pot. So, but that's one more thing that's great about the public. So, and yes, and from what I hear, it's getting better and better. I mean, who knows? When we come back, I think it's all a new game. So, but I think it's important to everyone that nobody works 90-hour weeks anymore. How many hours are in a week? Let's stick with you. So 2 more really quick questions. I think we can do this fast. Alex, what is the public's plan? What's the next step, and what are they saying about what they're going to do next?
Well, we've just announced Shakespeare in the Park will reopen this summer with Merry Wives, directed by Sohim Ali, and set in South Harlem in a West African immigrant community. We're going to open that show at a limited capacity, and we're hoping to do it. We've announced an intention to produce. We are still in negotiations with city, state, public health officials, unions, and really trying to make sure that we come back in a way that is both safe for everyone and addresses the cultural transformation that we need to see in order to move forward as an industry. So we're very excited, and it's been great to see our team slowly but surely trickle back in to these Zoom halls that we are now a part of.
And do you think that they'll start producing inside the public theater in the fall? Has that even come up yet?
It has come up. I don't think we quite know. We're really focusing on Shakespeare in the Park.
Sure.
We know we're going to get back to 425, and one of my favorite times ever in the lobby of 425 Lafayette is when I leave right around the time when the patrons are getting there, and I have to fight through the lobby to get out of the building because there's 4 shows starting, and it's super exciting, and I think everyone at the public is working towards that end of bringing that back to the city.
Yeah. John, you mentioned that you're going back to work to tech in August. Is that so? The plan is to start performing in the fall then?
Yeah, basically we're holding to the tried and true, 100-plus-year-old season schedule from what my understanding is right now. Whereas the 3rd week we start the season. So
see this, everyone. Those are fingers crossed. And Matt, you said 2 weeks, starting back up at the Rio in 2 weeks.
At the Rio, I think it's 3 weeks, but yeah.
And 50%? What is the?
It's I don't know, 250 of 12.
Oh, you said 250, right? So that is a teeny percent, right?
A teeny percent, but it's better than no percent.
Yeah, and an intimate
we'll
evening.
take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Have
you heard anything about City Ballet and what they might be doing? Any clues?
No, I see that a lot of the dancers are busy on Facebook, but I don't know what the company has planned.
Got it. Okay. Well, we're to our final question. Penny, we're going to stick with you for this question. What advice would you give to young people who want to do what you do?
Oh. Come back to me. I got to think for a second.
That's fine. John.
I'll try not to pass, but I think probably 2 things. Don't turn down work. I mean, it's a tough business to get a break in. I feel like everybody who's on this screen right now, we could probably talk for a whole nother episode about right place, right time, tides, wind, the moon, everything, and it worked. And then we worked hard. But before that moment, I know I did. I took any job I could. Like I took a job for a technical director. I worked for Local 1, building scenery, banging nails. I worked in management. I was like, just because it's not the exact thing you want to do it and do it well. And like Penny said, show up, dress for success, smile on your face, 100%, 100 miles an hour, and good things will come. Don't get discouraged. So.
Alex.
So in asking this question, I don't get to be young people anymore. Is that?
We'll give you a pass.
I was really holding on to that. Ask questions all the time.
Yeah. That's a great answer. I remember when I stopped being a young person. That was a while ago, but I do remember when it happened. It was something like this, and I was like, wait, don't I? No, I guess I'm not. Matt.
As a tandem to ask questions, take the time to listen to the answers. I would ask and, I'm off to the next thing, and I didn't take the time. You save yourself a ton of heartache if you just would have listened the first time.
I hope people are watching. This is good advice. Penny.
All right.
What you got?
Be yourself. Because if you're trying to be someone else and you do get that job, you may spend the rest of your life being really uncomfortable and miserable. So be true to yourself. And like, everyone else said, take the jobs, ask the questions, listen to the answers, be a good human.
On that note, we have come to the end of episode 39 of the Four Wall Sunday Roundtable. Is there anything that any of you would like to add or retract or clarify? Yes. Penny would like to retract something? No.
I just want to say to my New York City Ballet family that I love you and I miss you guys a lot. And I really miss you. Thank you.
Any other additions from anyone? We're going to assume that you miss all your people too. It's not just Penny.
I haven't seen him in so long.
That's true. You've been away
more
for
than it's been quite a long time.
All right. Anything else going once? Anything you want to add, retract, clarify? Thank you all so much for joining us. You were an amazing group. I can't wait to see you all in person someday very soon. Thanks everyone for watching. Drew, hearts out to you. And I hope you're doing okay. And I can't wait to see you. Okay. Have a great Sunday night, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.